this is fantastic. And for us, this is the continuation of a big build for the next 2 weeks before we are out at the Dwight Clark Legacy event, which we're going to tell you more about. It's 2 weeks from tonight. You have the opportunity to be there yourselves and get in on not only the fun, but you'd be helping out a lot of former 49ers. It's really a great event. And to help us do that, really looking forward to this conversation. Alex Smith is here, everybody. Hey, Alex, what's going on?
What's up, fellas? Good to be here, man. Glad to be on with you guys.
Yeah, it's really great to have you, man. We're excited about the conversation. Would love to start off by finding out what you made of all the conversation about trading wide receivers. Like, how different do you think this 49er offense would be if you removed one of those veteran receivers right now?
Oh, man. I mean, I think, listen, I'm kind of glad I don't have to do TV in the off season, strictly in season, because there's just so many of these hypotheticals that you can go down rabbit holes, and that's kind of what the off season's about. And I'm kind of glad that I don't have to discuss that. I know obviously there's a lot of phone calls that get made behind the scenes that none of us know about between GMs, and a lot of things that stay confidential. And who knows what those are? We probably will never find out. But listen, I'm glad both those guys are going to be wearing jerseys next year. They're both unbelievable players. One of them happens to be one of my favorite receivers in football, not just because he wears number 11, but Brandon Aiyuk, man. I mean, I think he really showed that he's an elite receiver in the NFL. And then I think Deebo, I mean, listen, is he a receiver, is he running back? Like, this guy, there's certainly a huge difference when he's not out there on the field and this offense and the energy he provides, the momentum he creates, the game-changing plays. I think his energy is infectious for this entire offense. I think he's kind of the tone setter, one of them for the team. And so certainly glad they're going to both be back with the team. And, obviously an opportunity for this organization to be on the doorstep, a couple times now and to see if they can get it done. Glad that the core of this team and certainly those two guys will be back next year.
Is there any fence mending that has to happen? Because both these guys heard their names publicly shopped, not only before the draft, during the draft, but then earlier this week, their names were both being thrown out there. What's that like as a player to have to go through that and then return to the team that maybe tried to shop you?
Well, I mean, I hope there was obviously open communication going on this entire time. And I think if that were the case, which good organizations are doing, you don't have to mend anything, right? I mean, I think as long as you're open, listen, both these guys get it, that it's a business. I think everybody in it, they've been around long enough to understand that. And I think all that a player can ask is that the team and organization is always up front. And I think that's the way Kyle and John operate. Listen, they've both been there as well. They've been around a long time. John was a player. Kyle's been around the game forever, since he was a kid. And I'm very confident that that's how they do operate. So I don't think there needs to be a ton of mending. Listen, when you play, you understand how it goes. And listen, this is coming from a guy I got shipped off twice and traded. And again, I think having gone through that twice, that's what you do appreciate. Honesty, being up front, open communication. And so I listen. You don't have the success that the 49ers have had under John and Kyle by not operating that way. So I think those guys will be just fine. I think once OTAs start, minicamp, those guys will get back in and start rolling. And they're looking forward to next year and probably glad that this is all kind of behind them.
Alex Smith is with us here on Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. It feels, Alex, like you're linked to Brock Purdy in a little bit of a way. Same jersey, and I've heard you talk a lot about him in recent years. And maybe it is because of the way people labeled you and the way they label him. So you dealt a lot with this game manager, product of environment stuff, and so does he. What do you make of that label?
It's funny. Yeah. I mean, well, listen, he and I couldn't be in different circumstances when it comes from being obviously the number one pick in the draft and having every, leg up on the competition that I had and multiple opportunities to screw up and second chances. And listen, this guy is the last pick in the draft. I mean, there are no guarantees. A lot of these guys don't even make the roster drafted in his position. And to see what he's done, honestly, it's the best story in the NFL, the best story in football, one of the best stories in sports. And it's the real deal. Brock is the real deal. I think for everybody out there trying to say he's a product of the situation, listen, is Kyle a great offensive coordinator? Of course. Are there great weapons there? Yes, but they're half the league you could say that about. Listen, you go into every, not just the main stats, you go into the deep kind of, some of these more underlying stats for, accuracy, throwing under pressure with a defender in proximity of him, passing outside the pocket, throwing the ball downfield. I mean, Brock was number one in the NFL in about every category there was. This guy does it all, and then you just turn on the tape, and the eye test, he passes it as well. I mean, this guy I think plays with more courage in the NFL than about any quarterback, and that's saying a lot. I mean, he's not a big guy, but man, he stands in there, and that's something you just can't coach. I'm sorry, like you guys have it or they don't. You can look good in shorts and throw it all around the yard, but when you put the pads on and 350 pounders are bearing down on you, to have that kind of courage and stand in there and still have the poise and accuracy to keep his eyes downfield, again, it's just a really, really rare. And obviously he can process and he can hit his spots. So, man, he's going to be playing a long time at a high level. He's got that in him. And obviously it's just so rare for a guy to have dropped that far in the draft. And, I think so many people just can't get over the fact that it doesn't add up for him, right? He's not 6'5". He's not throwing it 80 yards. Like, they don't have the measurables. They can't quantify it. But in the end, that's not what playing quarterback's all about anyway. And again, it's about accuracy and processing and toughness, and this guy has all those things. And so I certainly love contradicting. There's a lot of people out there that love to hate on him and knock him down. But, man, it's he is the real deal, and incredibly happy for him. And he couldn't be to a better kid, man. This guy's as humble as they come and just has a great, quiet confidence about him.
Former Niner QB Alex Smith here on 95.7 The Game. You obviously lived this life as he is, so how much pressure is there being the 49ers starting quarterback? From Montana to Young to Garcia to yourself, Kaepernick, all the way through. He's wearing a uniform of a franchise that's had some pretty great quarterbacks, yourself included.
Yeah, I mean, listen, no organization sets the bar higher when it comes to quarterback play than the 49ers, period. And I struggled with that. I struggled with it for a lot of years. Listen, I was a young kid that maybe wasn't quite ready for that, to be honest. And it definitely loomed over me, and I felt like I had to be perfect, living up to those guys. And kind of became my own worst enemy, for my first few years. And I'll say this, that's certainly what's been really, really impressive about Brock is he's just so unwavered. He has such a great balance of life and perspective and the opportunity in front of him. And he again, really matured beyond his years. And I think it's kind of a credit to, he was ready for this. This is a guy that had a really, really great high school career. Again, 4-year starter in college. Like, he was ready for his opportunity. And again, hats off to him. I mean, you don't get many shots, being in his position and to make the most of it and see what he's done has just been unbelievable.
Alex, it's good to hear like the comments you even made about Aiyuk and Deebo and being glad that they're going to be back. But it's life in NFL where your replacement gets drafted and you have to deal with that. No one knows that better than you. Like, what was it like for you when the Chiefs drafted Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mentioned before that the thing that was going on the entire time was, I was on the phone with Andy Reid. I knew exactly what the team was doing. I knew we liked him. I knew we were going to potentially move up and get him. So there weren't any surprises. I knew also that, I was the starting quarterback. It was very, very clear to me that, that was my year, my team, and I didn't need to look over my shoulder. And I think so that certainly made that process easier. I think also going to it was year 12 for me. When you get up there that many years, like, there's no guarantees beyond the year you're in anyway, right? Like, if you don't go play winning football, whether or not your replacement's behind you or not, they're going to find somebody that can if you can't do it. So certainly I think I'd learned a lot up to that point and was determined, again, to not be distracted, right? Whether it be myself or certainly looking over my shoulder at my eventual replacement. And, I don't think it's a coincidence that that was my career year either. Obviously with Patrick there and certainly, pushing each other. And, unfortunately, obviously that season ended with a playoff loss, which kind of describes my time in Kansas City. And, obviously found myself getting traded again.
You mentioned pushing each other. I wonder not only what it felt like when he was drafted, but what did it look like in camp and in practice? Like, could you see something special in him?
Yeah, the quarterback room in Kansas City is special. The way Andy Reid sets it up. You do everything together. Everything. I mean, you work out together, treatment together, you eat together, obviously practice, everything, film. It's done as a group. And you compete at everything. I mean, I don't care if it's pre-practice, hitting the goalpost after practice, in the film room, and everything's kind of a competition and meant to foster that and done in a really healthy way. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously, you spend more time with those guys than you do your family in season. That's the reality. And I think the thing that jumped out to me really quickly about Patrick, I think everybody gets enamored with the sidearm passes and the no-look passes and certainly the creativity that he plays with. But I think sometimes it's easy to ignore. I mean, man, this guy, watch him at the line of scrimmage. This guy's in command. He is so good with protections. He processes so well, and he works at it. And as a young kid, he came in. He beat me in almost every single day into the meeting room, into the film room in the morning. This guy asked a lot of questions, was incredibly hungry, and he wins with his head first, right? I mean, this guy wins with his brain first. Like, again, I think we all can get fooled into some of the crazy, silly plays he makes and the talent that he does have, but he can get you in so many different ways, and I think that's what really separates him. It's not just the physical talent. He's beating you with his head most of the time first.
8 years with the Niners, 5 with Kansas City, Niners and KC square off in the Super Bowl. Where did you watch it? And you can be honest with us. Which team were you pulling for this last time in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, twice. This has happened to my two teams. Unfortunately, the Niners have been on the wrong side of it. Man, it's it's so tough. Like, listen, 20 years ago I got drafted. I was a 20-year-old kid.
Wow.
Getting drafted by the Niners, and these are relationships. Listen, I've known the York family and a lot of people in that building for half my life, and will always hold a special place in my heart. I live here. My whole family Niner fans. So, and I love everything that this team's about and what they embody, the energy they play with. And then again, I got a ton of still close friends. Obviously, Andy Reid and Patrick and Kelsey. These are Chris Jones. These are guys that I played with and was in the locker room with and know intimately well. And so incredibly torn. Both of those. Unfortunately, somebody had to lose. This last game was unbelievable, though. To go to overtime and both teams put on a show. Unfortunately, again, one of them had to lose. So I'm hopeful the Niners will get theirs, though. Listen, they deserve it. Kyle deserves it. This team deserves it. So I'm hopeful they'll get back and get it.
Alex Smith with us here on Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. Alex, maybe this isn't fair because you talked about the closeness with the quarterback room in Kansas City, and you've never shared a quarterback room with Brock Purdy. But the expertise that you do have, when you look at him, I know you're a fan of him. You say he's obviously very good. But do you see even more? Do you see greatness in Brock Purdy?
Oh, yeah. I mean, maybe I was probably being too understated with him. Listen, for a second-year player, I mean, you're top 3 in every major category in the NFL last year. And throwing the ball downfield, standing in the pocket under pressure, again, outside the pocket, throwing. Like all these kind of substats, this guy's the best in the NFL at all this stuff. And I think the thing that jumps out to me that is incredibly elite, again, I think this guy has more courage than anybody in the NFL. And I know that maybe doesn't sound like a lot, but standing in the pocket with all these guys trying to kill you, there's so many guys that don't have that. And man, to be unrattled and unfazed and keep your attention downfield. This guy can beat you from the pocket, one, and then obviously I think he showed everybody what a good athlete he is when he does get a chance to use his legs. So yes, this guy's going to be doing it a long time. I expect no different. Only continue to keep ascending this next year.
You famously held Camp Alex during the lockout year, which was off-season work, and this time Brock Purdy gets to be the off-season QB for the first time in his career. How important will that be to his development entering year 3?
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, that's the only way you get to advanced level quarterbacking and offense, right? Yep. I mean, he's rehabbing all last year, even into training camp, obviously, kind of throwing every other day and all that. Here to kind of have his first full off season, third year in a system. Again, this is where you get elite level quarterback play and offense. And again, I think we saw a lot of that last year. I look for that to only continue. Again, so many pieces still in place, and that's what you want. Great organizations are stable. That's what it's about. And so, again, that goes back to obviously the original question with the 2 receivers. Glad that they'll be back. And I think we'll see kind of the fruits of that stability this next fall.
So, Alex, we're going to see you 2 weeks from tonight. We hope to chat with you that night as well. We're going to be out there doing our show, and we're going to tell all the listeners about how they can be involved and some of the details of it. But why don't you just give us a little bit from your perspective, the idea of being at a round table and the subject matter being natural-born leaders, you, Steve Young, Brock Purdy, Jeff Garcia.
Yeah, it's all part of, kind of the Dwight Clark Award ceremony 2 weeks from tonight at the California Theater in San Jose. It's awesome. All the proceeds go to the Golden Heart Fund, which is this awesome organization. It's only here for the 49ers. All the proceeds go to benefit, former Niners that are, struggling with life after football in some regard. And it's an awesome organization, and it'll be an amazing night. Listen, I'm fortunate enough to know Steve really, really well. I got to work with him at ESPN these past several years as well. And so it'll be fun to take the stage with him. I've gotten to know Brock really well as well these last couple of years, and Jeff too. So to get up there and have kind of a QB roundtable, a bunch of guys that have worn the jersey and sharing stories and talking ball will be really exciting. It'll be nice. Dre Greenlaw is also going to get presented with the Dwight Clark Award, which will be unbelievable. I think there'll be some other awesome speakers and roundtables as well. So, and all raising money for a great cause. So, yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun to talk shop with those guys and hear their perspectives on playing QB for the Niners.
You were teammates with Trent Williams in Washington for a bit, yeah?
Yeah, and Trent and I are good buddies. Yes.
Okay. What was that like? His presence in the locker room.
Trent's an awesome leader. I was really, really blown away when I first got to Washington. I had no idea. Obviously, new guy into that team and what to make everybody. And Trent, I mean, I think again, obviously, he's one of the best tackles of all time. But just a great, great leader. This is a guy that cares. It comes from his heart. He's authentic. Man, he and I are good buddies. So it's been so fun to watch him, his time here at the Niners and to see him rolling and obviously getting so close and to still be playing at the level he is, which is ridiculous at that position. And the Niners have been spoiled, man, to go from Joe Staley to Trent Williams for what the last 2 decades is, it doesn't get any better than that. So, again, I'm pumped that Trent is still going, and hopefully he can get that ring.
Alex, I apologize in advance if this is too personal, but your comeback story from the life-threatening leg injury moved all of us. So I just want to ask you, how's the leg doing after, 18 surgeries and just a triumphant return to the field that led eventually to retirement?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm pain-free, which is, wow. I never say those words ever. I have permanent damage, and there's things I have to adapt and overcome every single day. But to be pain-free and feel like I don't have any limitations, I got to put on a brace or I got to do different things to go about my business. But man, I can be active with my kids. I can travel. I can play golf. I can work out. I'm incredibly lucky, and it's certainly not lost on me.
Favorite club in the bag?
Oh, man. That's a good question. I hit them all very average. I'll take a 7-iron.
Okay.
I had you for the 8-iron, but 7's the 8. Yeah, I guessed 8. That's
yeah.
Yeah. What do you hit it? Like 220 yards?
Seriously, right?
No, I wish.
Alex, thanks for doing it, man. What a ton of fun to talk to you, and we look forward to seeing you out there in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, Mark, Dan, ton of fun. See you guys in a couple weeks.
Okay, beautiful. Alex Smith.